Welcome to the Power of Investing in People podcast, #Firestarter series. I am your host, Shay Sparks, Chief Excitement Officer of Sparks of Fire International, where we get you fired up about your life and your business by transforming trauma into treasure. And today, speaking of fire starters, is one of my dear friends who actually was the inspiration of coming up with the name Firestarter. So welcome to the show, the incredible David Bennett.
Hello. First off, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure. And you know how much I love you. So being here for round two, to me, it feels like to start talking about all this stuff. Man, I'm excited. Let me adjust. Are you ready? Because I'm ready.
I'm ready. And I'm
Okay.
just so honored that you've been so diligent and busy. And I know that your schedule is crazy. So just thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. The honor's mine, to be honest. It makes me happy that I'm here. So yeah, let's get started.
Well, and for those of you who don't know, David is a certified life purpose coach, motivational podcaster, teacher, motivational speaker. He has a I Needed This podcast and YouTube channel, as well as Instagram. And he has an amazing coaching business called The Lion Within. And I know, and he's also a co-author. So I'm just going to put it that way. He's an author.
Yeah.
So, and probably more books to come. So he's definitely one to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to dive in because there's so much to talk about. There's so much about the book that I want to talk about. But first of all, I just kind of want to start off with, David, we met at PodFest in March of 2020 before the world completely
Change.
shifted, completely
Yeah.
changed, right? And you just have such this amazing spirit that just spoke to me immediately in your Facebook post in the PodFest group. That's how we even connected in the first place.
Yeah.
So I wonder now, looking back over the last year and a half, but it was literally just a few months when we started after us meeting when we started this project. So what made you decide, you know what, Shay, I would love to be a part of the Firestarters book? I mean, why not? I could be an author.
Well, because when I first met you, I just came out with this episode called "Out of the Darkness," and the out of the darkness itself is that thing that everybody knows. They don't really want to talk about it. It's the thing that they isolate themselves to be by themselves. This is the thing that I call, depression, anxiety, stress. This is when you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what's looking back at you. It's the things that you keep to yourself that's in the darkness, right? Or even worse, you know that darkness is there and the people around you always remind you of
Mm-hmm.
the darkness and they don't let you get out of it. And so when I met you and I was talking about it, I was like, man, you light up my flame just as much. Because in the episode, I was talking about how like you have to start surrounding yourself around people that will flame your flames, right? So in the
Mm-hmm.
darkness, all of us are lights, all of us. It doesn't matter if you're a dim little candle light that's flickering in the wind, you still have a light.
Mm-hmm.
And it only goes out when, the time comes. But the way to be able to have a #bonfire community, you would have to be around other fire starters. So not only will you be a candle anymore, you'll be a full engulfed bonfire around people that are trying to get you to where you need to be. So that's something that you and I talked about, which you're like, ooh, I love Firestarter. Like, yeah, we need to go find more people like that. And let's start a group. And I was like, I'll be all about that. Finding, and then it turned into a full blown book, and you turned it into something that was way more than I could have ever imagined. So like, I thought it's amazing that you can find other people that are fire starters. Not only that, you put them in one collective book. That way, when someone is going through the darkness, they pick up this book right now and they can see the stories to realize that they're not all by themselves. They're not the only ones going through something. And not only that, you saw how someone pulled themselves out of the darkness to become who they are. And to me, that's amazing. And I think how many authors are in the book? I think there's a lot.
Yeah, there's about 10 of us or so.
Yeah. So imagine that you are one fire starter or one little candle in the darkness who thinks they're all by themselves. And then you talk to someone like Shay, and then all of a sudden you find 10 other people that are walking around, getting together, and all of a sudden, how bright do you think the light will shine in the darkness after you find other people that are like you, that love you and love on you and see potential in you that you didn't even see in yourself. So that's something that you have to like understand. I think right now most people are looking for clarity,
Mm.
and I think that's what the darkness is. It's the uncertain, it's the unknown, it's the loneliness, it's the depression, the stress, it's getting overweight and allowing yourself to not be disciplined. That's why it's so important to have this hashtag Firestarters book out there right now.
Well, and it came about in such a crazy time in our lives, but literally was born out of change.
Yeah.
And so the subtitle of How to Be a Spark of Hope in the Midst of Change was literally just kind of, yeah, it just kind of exploded. And what's so amazing is how each person, especially you, but each person has been an example of change because they were that hope,
Yeah.
right? That other keyword in the title, you were hope, not
Yeah.
only for yourself, but for other people. So tell us, like, what really inspired you? I know you just said you did an episode, but were you inspired even more when you were like, man, I really want to be a part of this because I know that this is going to impact?
Yeah, I knew it was going to impact. Now, not to shy away from who I've been for the last year. After I met you, and after you gave me this awesome opportunity to be a part of the book, I had to look at myself because there was things that I was battling with that I didn't know I was battling with until I got the help. Right.
Mhm.
So this is something that I have to make sure everybody is aware of. Just because you are a fire starter doesn't mean that you are. Hiding, you can't hide from the things that are actually going to
Mm,
happen in life, right? And so you can be a fire starter all you want, but if you don't look at your own demons in the face, those things are going to haunt you forever.
mm,
Does this make sense? So for
yeah.
me, when I started reading, when I got the book, when it finally came out and I was able to see it and I was able to see my face in the book, and I realized, man, I'm way more capable than I thought I was going to be.
Mm,
Does this make sense? And then when you
mhm,
start looking at all of the chapters and you start reading the other people's stories, and you're like, they're just like me. And when you think about it, you're like, there's nothing special about me. I'm just Dave Bennett, you know? And then you start thinking, there is something special about me because I am Dave Bennett, and I'm
right.
surrounded by other people who thought they weren't as special, but they are special. And that's why I was like, man, this Firestarter book can literally be, you could be a co-author. You could be a small little guy who has something in your mind that you want to share with the world. Hashtag Firestarters will help you understand who you are. That's why I knew the impact was going to be there. That's why I want to get it in front of as many people as I possibly can to show the people that are like, who think they're insignificant, to show them how significant they are. It's so amazing. Read the book,
Mm.
like look at all the chapters. Like that's feel your story in other people's stories.
Well, and I think that's really the main reason why I thought it was so important to bring all incredible, all every single one of the co-authors are just incredible, have their own incredible story
Yeah.
and their own leader in their own way, and each one is come from a completely different walk of life, and yet we still have a common ground, we still have a common theme. You mentioned the darkness, you mentioned looking at yourself. Fear shows up,
Yeah.
right? And so
All
it
the
doesn't
time.
matter if you're a leader or you consider yourself not a leader, you will experience fear. And so that is why it was really important to, like, especially in the last year and a half, to really look at, we've all experienced fear. That's something we've never experienced before. And so how can we at least tap into something, grab onto hope, grab onto something that will allow you to propel yourself forward? And you are really speaking just so much bravery, authenticity, and vulnerability in your chapter, and just right now too. And so I want to kind of go into that. Your chapter is called, as I put on my glasses, your chapter is called Out of the Darkness.
Mhm.
And I'm going to read a few snippets from your chapter, but I really want to start off with this. You say, you see, the darkness knows that if your fire burns hot enough and your light shines bright enough, it can spread. And if it spreads, there will be too much light and the darkness won't have a place to be. The darkness doesn't want this. It represents hopelessness, shame, stress, anxiety, past mistakes, failures, hardships, all of it. The darkness hates your fire and your light. And then you go on to say it wants to consume you. So tell our listeners who maybe haven't read the book, isn't that powerful? It's so
Yeah.
powerful.
It's like I need that right now. But
Yes.
it's so like for me, absolutely. How many of you who are watching right now, listening right now, can feel what Shay just said in the chapter that I wrote? Like, think about it. How many of you are being consumed or feel that darkness right there on the back of you, right? So she just talked about also like how you have to persevere in that, right? So we were just talking right before we even started about the word resilience. And you have to be resilient. Now, if you're watching me or you're listening to me, realize you have survived everything that you've ever come across and you're still here right now. And so because you're watching this and because you're listening to this, take this as a sign that it's time for you to start understanding that the darkness is not going to win. We're going to try by either reaching out to me or Shay or anyone for that matter, talk to somebody, or if you can be a light to someone that you know is going through this darkness. Remember what the book said. It does not want you to shine your light. It wants to isolate you and wants you to be by yourself. It does not want you to be around other people who will build you up. Because if our lights shine brighter than the darkness, there's no place the darkness can hide. It'll be revealed always. So one, realize that perspective is everything. What does that mean? That means that life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And that's what this show is about. It's about how to find the blessings in the trauma, how to realize that what's happened to you is made you this tough individual that you are, right?
Yes.
Then you got to face your demons, right? Stop hiding from them. That's where the anxiety comes from. That's where all of these things are controlling you because you're too afraid to look at them. And so what I recommend right now is just call someone up, maybe your best friend, someone you can be vulnerable with, and tell them all of your demons. Tell them all. Don't let the demons control you anymore. And the bridge. So there's this bridge that I want to talk about. The bridge is finding that person. So yeah, you can want all the good things in life, right? But if you feel like you're isolated and you have nothing to do and you're going, I want to be over here, but how do I do that? Create a bridge. Start being vulnerable. Start telling people this is what needs to happen. I need to be around other fire starters. I'm tired of my light being dim. So take responsibility. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that answers your question.
It does. And it's, man, you just dropped so much nuggets, so much wisdom.
Sorry.
No, that's awesome. I love it. And I want to just kind of pause here and just kind of dive in a little bit deeper and really talk about what darkness is that you went through personally.
Oh man. I'll pick one. Okay.
Yeah.
So because I've gone through a lot. So one of the darknesses that I have gone through was being abused from the ages 4 to 12 years old, right? And then I'm 31 now. You would think that all of that stuff shouldn't bother me at 31, but I never got over it. Now my circumstances changed. We moved to a new environment. Everything's changed, and I started being able to be myself. But I always I was recently diagnosed this year with PTSD. Severe PTSD. So, and it was because of the things that happened in my past that and I've been struggling with this quietly. This is why I tell everybody to look at your demons in the eyes, admit that there's something wrong, right?
Yes.
Because for me, thank God that I had people like Shay in my life. Thank God I had people like my pastor, Rich. I'm calling you out, buddy, because you've really changed my life. And my mother, people that have been through these dark times too, where I was able to be vulnerable to them and tell them, and they didn't judge me on it. They validated how I was feeling. They were understanding, they were loving. And now if you don't have people like that in your life, the darkness can really get you. And so for me, I've been consumed by that darkness that I was not willing to look at for 31 years, I want to say, so like 31, I'm 31, so I say 31 years, even though from ages 4 to 31, I was still acting like I was getting beat and abused and not heard and not validated. And to me, that can make my hard Please help me.
Hard.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, and I don't like that. I don't like that I can go into situations already armored up, ready to go, and not be vulnerable and not be open to things because of things that happened in my past. Now, that's just one little speck of darkness that
Yeah.
grew into this massive thing. But what happened when I shined the light on it? It was vulnerable. There was nothing I could do because now, instead of hiding from it, I admitted it. I shined a light on it and goes, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to deal with you. And I'm done trying to cope with you. I'm done I'm not letting you suffer. I'm not letting myself suffer anymore from this thing that's been like, hey, it's here. Do you remember this? Hey, do you remember that? And that's what causes the anxiety. And then the anxiety turns into a panic and goes, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to me.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? That's just
Absolutely.
that's one piece of darkness. And so like if you're hearing me, you're going, what's the big deal? Well, realize that you have more than one darkness moment in your life, and that's what causes the trauma. And they all stack up if you don't look at them and get them fixed. Does this make sense? And that's what the beast is, right? So like the beast turns into this massive cesspool of darkness, and you're this little candle just being blown in the wind, and you're going, so what happens when you feel empty inside? Well, you start trying to fill it up with different things. Instead of looking at the validation and trying to heal yourself, you're trying to fill it up with drugs, alcohol, pleasures of different kinds. You could name it, you have it, and you know what I'm talking about. If I'm calling you out right now and you understand that emptiness that you're trying to fill, the answer to that question is to stop hiding from the darkness, look your demon in the eyes, and be vulnerable. Allow yourself to feel those things that you've been not wanting to feel forever, because on the other side of that pain is healing, and that's where God's at.
Wow. Absolutely. 100% spot on. And you're I just want our listeners to really get what he said. That was just one of the darkness. I too have multiple times of darkness in my own life. And that's what I really loved about your chapter, is that it was showing it's not just one of those things that I named off before of, hopelessness, shame, stress, anxiety, past mistakes. That's not just one. It's sometimes happening literally at all the times.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. And at once. And if you have experienced it, of course, especially abuse that is so underplayed for PTSD. But if you've had abuse, of course you have PTSD as an adult. Our childhood experiences shape our adult decisions. And I cannot stress that enough, because that has happened in my own life. And I see that time and time again. And just like with you, your defense mechanism was fear. So fear then became your safety. It kept you
survival
safe.
mode.
Absolutely. It kept you safe. And then, and at what, 30, you were like, hey, I'm going on a plane trip for the first time. And thank God that you had the courage and the resiliency and acknowledging that, hey, I can do this, that you did that, because that's how we met.
Yeah. And now check this out. So to validate you on that as well, I knew that I was like inherently introverted if I don't know anybody. So the reason why I made that video that you mentioned before in the Podfest community is because I had anxiety. So I was like, I'm going on an airplane at 30 years old. I'm not going to know anybody down there. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to make a video and go, hey, I'm going to be brand new. I want to be the advocate for all new people. So if you're new going to Podfest, please reach out to me. Let's be buddies. Let's be friends. Right.
Yeah.
And so everybody was like, I'm new. I'm like, I'm going to be your best friend there. Right. And then there was this app called Wova app. Right.
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, where you can make meetings, you can go talk to people, you can be more involved, and you can vote who's the most who are the most influential people in this app. I was rated number 2 out of how many people do you think were there? Like thousands?
3,000. Yeah, just 3,000. You were rated number 2, but it was just out of 3,000. No,
but that's because I was willing to be vulnerable, though. Do you see what I'm trying? So this is the weird thing. I wasn't hiding from the fear. I was going, I'm going to look this in the eyes. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. Being on camera and going, hey, like I'm new, I'm a little nervous, I'm going to PodFest, I'm 30, never been on an airplane. That's because of the fear. I'm gonna go down there and meet new people. And man, the people that I've met, I can name them all off too, because I remember every face, I remember every person that's left an impact on me. And because I went down to PodFest, I got to meet the founder of it. Not only that, they gave me the system, brand new system, the everything that they did because of how willing I was to meet new people and love on people. And now I have to tell you, remember, this was last year. I found out that I had PTSD this year, and I was still going through the darkness. Even when the book was coming out, hashtag Firestarters, I wasn't exempt of having hardships. I wasn't exempt of still dealing with the darkness. I was just
Yes.
I was able to look at it better because I had people like Shay in my life, because I had the other authors in my life, because I had these people that I've never met before in my life, and I was able to be vulnerable. It changed everything.
Hmm.
So if you go to my podcast right now and you see that I haven't posted in a while, well, it's because my perspective has changed. Who I am has changed. And you know what? And it's so much better now because I'm more emotionally intelligent because of being vulnerable.
Yes.
I'm more responsible. I'm taking everything in as 100% responsibility because I'm a grown adult. And so that means that everything happens to me is up to me. And also being humble enough to go, I'm not in control, God is. And
Mm.
that's and now I know that there could be people going, well, I don't believe in that. That's fine. I'm just telling you how I can totally be free with understanding that life does not happen to me. It happens for
Yeah.
me and for a reason. And I'm living proof that that's true.
Very
Isn't that
true.
crazy?
It's not crazy. It's a miracle, and I think not only you, but our listeners are listening. They've gone through something, and I just want to say that you're also a miracle. And so
Yeah.
you have a story to tell because, as David and I have learned, we know that people get inspired, they get empowered, they take action when they hear the things that we've gone through.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I want to continue on with reading some
Yeah.
nu- amazing nuggets from your book. And so you go on in the chapter to say, because like it or not, you will eventually become a reflection of the company you keep. Therefore, you might as well find people who will fan your flames rather than people who want to smother it. Choose yourself first and stop wasting time around things that don't feed you.
Yeah.
And you
That's
have been
another one of those.
talking about that.
Woo!
I know. I got chills just talking about it because you have been talking about this. Find people who fan your flames. I am just, wow. So before Podfest, before we met, before you put yourself out there and started a podcast, and I know you were a coach too, you became a coach. And so who fanned your flames and who motivated you? Who did you decide you wanted to emulate?
That's gonna make me emotional, but it's my mother. Um, she's the only person that has really got me and understood me and made me feel like I wasn't stupid. Now, I'm sorry
Don't be
because she
sorry.
knows. Because it's hard to think about when you start thinking about back. You look back, and when I made that decision, I quit my job because I was like, this is something I need to do. I was called to do it, and I knew I was called to do it. And I knew that I was able to connect with people on how my perspective was, but people in my life are saying you're not educated, you're not smart enough. Look at your life. You weren't going to pass school, which I also found out that I this year that I had dyslexia. So that's another dark spot that was in my life where because I was misdiagnosed or I wasn't diagnosed at all, people told me I was stupid. I just couldn't.
Mm,
I had a mental thing that was blocking it. Now, if you can hear me now, you can hopefully see that I'm not that dumb, but
you're not
so
at all.
all of those people that were in my life were making me feel depressed, just sad. That was the
Mm,
darkness that was coming through. And my mother, man, she would not. accept that. And she's like, no, absolutely not. And so she made me go to our church, and I signed up to be an international school of ministry. So like I can go anywhere to preach. Right.
Mhm.
And so she had everybody pray on me about the things that were
Mm.
bothering me. And this is the first time in my life that I had people come over and show me love.
Mm.
Now, as a man, I do not get shown affection a lot. I do not get shown. I'm not told people are proud of me. They don't. I'm not told that people love me. But my mom tells me all the time. And the
Mm.
moment that where people put their hands on me, it changed my whole life. It changed everything about who I was, who I thought I was, and it was because I was
Wow.
around the right people. And that's why I put that in that podcast, is because, or this chapter too. So if you want to hear me just speaking this, go to the chapter 20 in my podcast, Out of the Darkness. You can actually hear me read an abridged version of what the chapter is, okay? Because it's so significant. It's so much to, if you're the product of the 5 people you hang out with the most. So if you're
Mhm.
hanging out with a bunch of people who are living in the darkness, guess what? You're going to be living in the darkness too. But if you're sick of it and you're tired of it, reach out to me, or go find someone in your local community, go to your church. If there's a place where you don't feel like you belong, that's not the right church. That's not the right place to be. Find people who are going to fan your flames, accept you for who you are, and love on you. That's what you need. And that's what I needed. And my mom, man, she can attest to everything and how much I've grown in the last 31 years. And she has been the only one in that. There's this picture, there's this meme out there. It goes, your mom's always going to be your biggest fan, right? And there's
Mm.
this person on stage, and it's empty. And the first person in the front row, sitting in the front seat, is his mom. And
Mm.
that's been my mom the entire time. Now, you can also hear she was my first special guest, right?
Mm.
And it was really cool because at 29 years old, she told me, I never had your back. And
Wow.
now she heard me. Like, she never validated me though. She was with the naysayers. She's going, you are not smart enough. You are not this, right?
Mm.
And then I said, I just need you to hear me. Like, why don't you ever just listen? Like, that's what I need. I don't need you to solve my problems. I don't need you to tell me that I can't do it. I need you to love me and tell me I'm just going to listen. And the moment that she heard me, the moment she was like, fine, I'm just going to listen to you. And I explained everything. She's like, this is
Mm.
the first time in your life, in 29 years since you've been born, that I've heard you. And I've seen things
Wow.
from your perspective. Do you know what that did to me? When I finally felt the thing that I've been craving for years, because I was able to say it finally instead of just getting angry about it, going, forget this, I'm out, I'm gone. And so you have to start creating boundaries for yourself as well, which that's what part of the chapter that you just read. Creating the boundaries means sometimes the people that you get rid of are the people in your family.
Mm.
And that's something that I told everybody. This year, I'm not going to family events. This year, I'm focusing on myself. This year, I'm saying no to a lot of things. This year, people are going to go, what happened to David? This year, I'm going to focus on me and surround myself around the right people. If I can't find them, then I'm going to keep searching until I find them. But this year, I'm going to be a ghost, and I'm going to build myself up in a way so when I come back, I'm no longer a rookie. I'm not starting from scratch, and I'm a completely different human being.
Mm.
And this is what's cool about it, right? When I met you, I did not have that perspective.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And you and I have had conversations off of the podcast
Yeah.
where you also have changed my life in a way to change my
Mm.
perspective about things, right? Because you remember when I'm like, I think I'm supposed to sit here and change the world and all of this, and you're like, that's not your job. Your job is to be you, and you can influence someone else to be themselves. That's all you have to do, and that is changing the world. You might not
Mm.
be able to change the world, but you'll change the perspective of one person, and that's their whole world. And I was like, all right, Shay, all right, whatever. And like, you gotta put that on me. And that's why I started trying to change my perspective to,
Mm.
I'm not here to be the savior. I'm here to be me, the best Dave
Mm.
Bennett I could possibly be. And that's being a fire starter. That's fanning other people's flames and serving, not being a person who can take. It's a person who can give back. Does that make sense?
Well, thank you for sharing that. And yes, it makes perfect sense. In fact, you bring tears to my eyes as you're sharing it, not only about your mom, but, about me as well. But most of it, your mom, what a true testament to how she has also grown as a mother to
Oh
be
yeah.
able to like sit and hear you. And especially now that you're an adult, you're able to articulate what you need in a different
Hmm.
way. When,
Yeah.
as children, we act out, or, we do whatever stupid things we do to get our parents' attention. And instead, now you can articulate it, which I think is why God's master plan is it for us to notice it in our adulthood, is to
Yeah.
go, yeah, now you can talk about it. Now you can articulate. Now you can ask for what it is that you need from whoever, your spouse, your parent, your child, rather than being able to just continue to go down that cycle of acting out.
Yeah.
So I really love that you have, and I've met your mom virtually. She is an absolute beautiful gem of a
I think she
person.
should be a part of part two. I listen. My mom can write a chapter for you. Oh my goodness. So
I would love that. I would love to have her on here.
I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put a little bug in her ear after
Yeah,
this.
there you go. And yeah, I would love that. She's an amazing, amazing human being. So I love that she, really saw in herself to go, hey, my son is hurting here. I need to shift. And she
Yeah.
really took that. So, you, by being you, also shifted her.
Yeah. And that was the cool
That's
part.
huge. That's so
Yeah.
huge.
Well,
So
my
I
mom had
just
me
want
when
to,
she was 17, right? So like you got to
so
think there
she
was a
was
kid.
growing up too, right? She was growing while
Yeah.
you were growing.
Which was causing me to have trauma growing up with her because I was watching a kid raise a kid, and this kid at 17 was all of a sudden hit with life. Think about it. As soon as you have a kid, you think your life stops, right? So, and all you have to worry about now, if you're a good parent or someone who's responsible, the kid is the priority, right?
Hmm.
So that's the thing, is that's what my mom did, but she was still a kid. She was still in that rebellious stage. Now I don't know about you at 17, but I was a very angry kid at
Oh
17. I
yeah.
was I was rebellious. And that's so when I used to get mad at my mom until I was old enough to have a different perspective.
Mm,
Perspective is everything. I'm going, holy crap, she did
yeah.
everything she could. Like she did everything she possibly could as a human being, and I was hating her for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, because I had my own kid, that's when the perspective changed. Now I'm not telling everybody, if you're not ready to have a kid, don't have one, but dang, kids change your life, man. And I'm
Hmm.
sitting here going, like, the amount of stuff that she sacrificed for me, the amount of sleepless nights that she had for me, the amount of things that she has done for me, I got to give her, I give her more credit than I ever have before. And it's because without my mother, there would be no me. Does
Mm.
that make sense?
Yes.
And God,
Amen.
and God.
Amen. You're having
I'm sorry.
church up in here. Amen. Which is a perfect segue to the bookend of the last bit that I want to read from your chapter, because it's just, huh, this is just so powerful what you write. You say, if you reach down deep into yourself and discover what lights you up, it will make way for you in this world. I truly believe this with all my heart. Not even 6 months ago, that cloud of darkness surrounded me as well. I was broke, alone, and almost homeless. Truthfully, it was hard to see a way out, but I did. And what I'm telling you today is that I dug deep. I looked my darkness in the eyes and demanded, move! You are in the way. You don't belong here. Today is your eviction notice. Woo! And I have chills all over me reading that. That was, you can tell what a difference from literally the time that you wrote that, over a year ago, to where we are now,
Yeah.
in just your voice, your verbiage, like, whoo. I mean, I have chills all over my body just thinking about how much you have shifted and how much you have become so much of the change that you've wanted to see. And
Yeah.
so so what advice would you give someone who is listening or watching, thinking, well, I mean, that's great for David, that's great for Shay, that's great for the other co-authors, but I don't really have people to fan my flames, number one. And I don't really have tools, or I'm not good enough to write a book. I don't have a
Yeah.
story to write a chapter. What
Oh yeah.
advice would you tell them?
Oh, Shay. Oh, I can give you some advice, listeners. There's nothing special about me. I am normal, everyday David Bennett. But the cool thing about me is that God made me. God made you. God made everybody else. Now, I'm saying that it might trigger you a little bit, but that's fine. Okay. I need you to hear me, though, and hear my voice. Your life's only going to get better when you can be humble, vulnerable, and resilient. And you have to start taking 110% responsibility over your life. You were born in this time frame, in this time. That means that there is a purpose for you, because you were not born 20 years ago or 40, 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. You were born in this timeline. You're listening to my voice right now. For some reason, this is your sign. And so what I'm telling you is that if you don't think that you have something inside of you, call me. I'll get it out, because that's what I do. Because I felt like you. I know what it feels like to feel lonely. I know what it feels like to be fat. Listen, before January, I want to say December 2020, I weighed 260 pounds because of how the darkness, I wasn't exempt from it. Now, in the book, it said 6 months prior to that, I was in the darkness. Yeah, I made a choice that cost me everything. I got a divorce. I lost my kid. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost a lot. But thank God that happened. I'm glad I lost all those things, because I would never have found myself. And during that time, for the last 3 years, I discovered my purpose. That's the fire. And then I created 3 programs around that. Discover your purpose and passion. That's the lion within you. Tame the beast. Learn how to be more emotionally intelligent. Figure out what triggers you. Learn what's keeping you limited in your limiting beliefs, in your mindsets, and what is happening to you. And then the last but not least, know your kingdom. Create a vision for yourself, a step-by-step process, so you know what you're supposed to do. That's the point. I can guarantee you right now, I will bet money on it. I will bet my life on it, that if you feel like you don't have a purpose, reach out to me. I will show you that you have a purpose. I will show you that you're here for a reason. And I will show you the reason why I'm just everyday, normal Dave, right? But because I have God on my back, and I had my mother on my back, and I had people like Shay on my back, and all of the people that are in this book standing, I was tired of walking in the darkness. I'm tired of it. And I don't know about you, but it's time to look at your darkness in the eyes, flash that light on it, and go, it's time to leave. And if you're alone and you feel scared about it, and you're terrified to look at it, be with me, be with Shay, reach out to someone who's not afraid to look at it. Or at least you're not alone. It could be terrifying, and I can be terrified looking at it with you, but you're not going to be by yourself. So the last thing that I have to say is the darkness is a mountain, okay? And in the Bible, it says, if you have faith just as small as a mustard seed, you can move that mountain. Why? Well, because you're a light that's looking for other lights. The mountain is the darkness, okay? The mountain is fake. It's a lie. It's just something that you are constantly being controlled by. Don't allow it to control you anymore. Be vulnerable. Reach out. I will do anything I can to show you how valuable you are. And saying that, I've lost 2 of my best friends. Both of my best friends I grew up with died to suicide. And it's because no one told them this, and that's why I have this fire in my heart. It's because I don't want to lose any more people, and I don't want this life to win. I don't want the darkness to keep winning, and that's why God put me on this planet right now. That's why I live in this timeline, and that's why you live in this timeline. It's because it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to stop letting this. If you can't see, the world's changing whether we like it or not. So I would rather be on the opposite side of this, all this negative crap that's happening in life, and be the thing that's going, I'm not allowing you to win anymore. I don't want to do this. And there's a giant wake up call for everyone that's happened during COVID. And that's, we don't want to do this anymore. You're right. I don't want to do it. That means that I want to do what God's created me to do. And I want to help you do that same thing. And what I was created to do was to help you find what you were created to do. So I hope that's the answer to your question, and I'll wind down. But man, I love all of you. And if that's something that you're looking for, is love and clarity and understanding, I'll give it to you. And because that's what I needed to set me on this path of being a fire starter.
I love it. And you are such the example. Like I said before, you have been the example of what change looks like and how to continue to be lit up as you're
Yeah.
changing. You're continued to be lit up. So so we're going to shift gears a little bit and kind of talk about the book process. How was it for you? How was the process for you writing your chapter, getting involved, the whole thing? Like what was your feedback on that?
So my feedback on getting started was a little scary, right? Because I remember having that conversation with you and just being like, well, this is a huge honor, right? But then there's that insecurity, the darkness, like I'm just Dave. Like there's nothing significant about me, right? And you're going, but Dave, if you didn't make your episode and you didn't come on and we didn't talk about it, you were the one who created the Firestarters word. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, I am. And you're like, I would love to have you in the book. And I was like, okay, yeah. So when I was like, so it wasn't I wasn't thinking about the Out of the Darkness, right? I was still freshly in my brain at the time. And I was sitting there going, how can I help people with this? And I'm like, you know what? Because I script all my podcasts. I was like, I'm going to take that script. I'm going to put a little bit more sauce on it for the book. And then I'm going to put it in that book, because if no one ever hears my podcast ever, at least they heard the words that I said that changed my life.
Yeah.
So, and that was something I'm so grateful and so honored that you even gave me that opportunity. So if you feel like your story can help someone, reach out to Shay, man, and put your story in this book and change someone's life. Maybe that's what you got to do.
Thank you. And it's funny, you said you had fear at first. There was no fear coming through any phone call we've ever had. It was immediate, like, I'm in. Well, absolutely, yeah. Let's do this. So I love that you expressed other fear. So, but because it didn't show through.
Oh no, because I'm resilient. I'm that vigilance. I can't let people. I used to think that it was cowardly to show it, right? Now I realized that it's there as a way to make me choose. There's two choices. You can let fear control you, or you can choose to be brave. And I thought by pretending that it wasn't there, that was being brave.
Yeah.
No, I was just being naive.
Pretending to be brave, and really you were being naive. Wow, that's huge. Huge.
The things that's coming out of my mouth right now, I'm like, I need to watch this over again so I can get this for myself every time. Beautiful. I feel.
Yeah. So I know that time is you wrapping up here. So where can people buy the book? How they can connect with you? You've talked about, connect with me, but where? Do they email you directly? Do they go to your website, social media? And as you're talking, I'll put the link up for our viewers. You can also watch this on YouTube if you're listening to it. I'll put the link up for them to buy your book, but feel free to share
right there's where you can buy the book. There is a website that's in the book that I am creating. I'm almost done with it. I just showed Shay that I'm almost ready for it, because I want it to be ready for when you guys hear this, that I give you all of the value you need and over deliver on that. So it's going to be ineededthisdave.com. That's something that I really want to do. You can also find me on my podcast, I Needed This with Dave Bennett, because after every single episode, you're going to be saying, I needed this. So, and that's because I need it too. You can also email me at ineededthisdave@gmail.com just to talk to me, or you can find me on Facebook. And you can talk to me on there. I'm totally open and vulnerable with anybody who wants to talk about anything. And you can message me at 3:00 in the morning, 4:00. If I hear it, I'll respond.
And you can purchase his book, those for who are listening, is firestartersbookproject.com/David.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's down below right there.
Yes. And he will sign a copy even for you. So definitely check it out.
I will sign it with this marker.
Oh, there you go. Awesome. So as we wrap up, first of all, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. These are the steps that I want to tell you. 1, believe that you have purpose, because if you feel like you don't, you're letting the darkness win. 2, take 110% responsibility over your life. It is your responsibility to get yourself out of it. 3, find people who will fan your flames. Either reach out to me, reach out to Shay, reach out to somebody who you know you could be vulnerable with. 4, Stop being a victim and become a victor over your life, and realize that life does not happen to you, it happens for you. And last but not least, because this is who I am, I dare you to challenge God. And I dare you to tell him to reveal himself to you. And I dare you to understand it. More so, just humble yourself. That's all I have to say. Those are my 5 tips right now to get you to understand that you are so significant on another level, but you're holding yourself back because you're afraid to look at your darkness in the eyes. Stop doing that.
Wow. And that was ended on a mic drop right there. So thank you for being here, David. It's been an honor, a pleasure, a joy to be working with you and connected with you the last year and a half. So thank you for that.
I love you. You know it. You know it. You know I love you.
Well, I love you, and I'm so proud of you of all the growth that you've done and just hung with it, and you're still continuing to transform. So thank you, and I'm proud of you.
Oh, God damn. Thank you.
And thank you for listening to The Power of Investing in People. If you liked this episode, because I know you did, I mean, you probably even took notes because David's amazing. I mean, just amazing, especially that last one. I mean, the 5 steps. Wow. Hope you're writing that down because I'm going to have to go back and write it down as well. And if you did, please go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. And if you want to be fired up like David is, because let's just face it, we've had some amazing authors in this book. They're dropping nuggets. They're dropping things that will get you fired up. Go over to firestartersbookproject.com and set up an interview with us, a consultation, and let's talk about what your chapter could possibly look like in the next collection. Until next time, let's get fired up.